Okay, I'm just gonna say it. White pens are a struggle. They're not opaque enough. They're choppy. They don't run properly. They're super annoying to use. But I feel like there must be at least one good white pen out there for lettering and journaling and card making and calligraphy and stuff like that, right? Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and today I'm gonna test a bunch of them so you don't have to. First thing I'm gonna say right off the bat is that I cannot possibly claim to test every single white pen out there. I can only test what I have and what I find, but I found a good handful. So here are the pens I'm testing out. So first, in the gel pen category, I have the Uni-Ball Signo or Signo. I never know how to say that. I have the Sakura Jelly Roll. This is the size 08. And then I have the Karin DecoGel MilkyWay gel pen. So those are gel pen options. Then in the brush pen options, I have the Tombow Fudenosuke white pen. I have the Karin DecoBrush Pigment pen, which I guess could go in the paint pens category as well. And I have the Faber-Castell Pitt brush pen. So those are some brushes. And then I have, again, these are also more brushes, but they're paint pens. So I have the Pentel Milky brush. I have the Posca Brush paint pen. And then in the paint pen section that aren't brushes, I have also the Posca size 3M bullet shape. And I have the Posca size 1M bullet shape. So some gel pens, some brush pens, some brush paint pens, and some paint pens. Like I said, it's kind of impossible to have every white pen out there, but I know that these are ones that people commonly try and have and use for different types of projects. So I thought I would kind of like review each one. Okay, so let's just go in the order that I named them. So the first one is the Uni-Ball Signo or Signo. And this would just be used for like small little detailing. It's not a brush pen. You can't use it for calligraphy. So it would just be, you know, for writing smaller things on darker paper. I'm just going to write the name of the pen, I think. So right off the bat, you can see that it's a little bit choppy. Like on the letters themselves. Let me hold that up a little bit. Hopefully you can see. On the letters themselves, they are choppy. The opacity of the ink is really nice. Like it's a really nice bright white, but you kind of have to like go over each letter a few times to get it to not be so choppy. And like maybe even go back and fill in some of those choppy lines. So it's not the most satisfying. But it's certainly not the worst gel pen I've ever used. If I just like try and scribble some lines. Yeah, you can see it's like for sure a pretty choppy one. I think I also should have shaken it a little bit first. I think people don't often think to shake gel pens, but if they've been sitting for a while, it can help. Try writing that again. Yeah, no, it's still choppy. Especially if you write quickly, it's pretty choppy. But I do like how opaque the white is. Oh, now it's just fully stopped working. Okay, shake it up again. See if it comes back to life. That's the good part about live testing. There we go. Still quite choppy though. To be fair, there's not a lot of ink left in this pen, so it might actually just be dead. It's not because of the tip. I've just used this a lot in the past. So personally, I have used this pen on cards and stuff like this, but I usually use it for like small dots or really small areas that you wouldn't notice the choppiness on, if that makes sense. Now let's switch to the Sakura Jelly Roll. I'm going to give that a shake too before we start. Try this one. All right, right off the bat, a lot less choppiness, but it's also not as opaque as the Uni-Ball. I'm going to shake it a little bit more. It has been sitting on my shelf for a while. There we go. Okay, it's a little more opaque. So I guess let this be a lesson to shake your gel pens a bit. But even then, it's still not, like you can really see, it's not as opaque as the Uni-Ball. So right now you're seeing in action the thing I was talking about in the introduction when I said white pens are annoying. They're choppy. They don't run properly. They're not reliable. So see, now this one's like just already kind of died. And if I scribble with it, it sort of comes back, but not really. Not in a meaningful way. I have another jelly roll right here and they're both doing that. So jelly roll, not my favorite either, but I mean, the other part of this is that it's so hard because sometimes if you pick one up off the shelf and it's been sitting there longer than one that hasn't been, or if you've had it sitting on your shelf, or if you've had it sitting in a certain way or in the sun, or, you know, it could really affect the ink in them. So you might walk into Michael's and test a jelly roll and it works really, really well, and that's great. Take it home. But you might test one that really drives you crazy, like these ones. So not like the most reliable items in the world. Okay, next let's test the Karin DecoGel Milky Way. For fairness, let's give it a shake like all the other ones. Okay, immediately super choppy. If it wasn't choppy, that white would be really beautiful, but really, really choppy. That would drive me nuts to try and draw with that. See, this is kind of just the nature with gel pens, honestly. All right, moving on from gel pens, let's do the brush pens. So let's start with the Tombow Fudenosuke. And these ones you don't really need to shake, but I guess now it's just kind of a habit. So let's try writing Tombow. And you can't see it at all. I know from having tried this before that this one kind of shows up slowly on the paper. So it's a little weird that you can't see it right away, but it's kind of cool. It like develops and you'll see that get a little bit darker. So overall, I think if you've been on my channel before, you know that I love a Tombow Fudenosuke. So I love the way this writes. I just don't know that it's the most opaque white that you could possibly get. Next up, let's try the Faber-Castell. Give it a little shake for fairness. Okay, this one immediately is a slightly darker white. And I don't hate the tip of this pen. However, I know from using it in other colors that it tends to fray pretty quickly. So it's not like a super long lasting pen that you'll have in your kit. You might have to buy multiple if you're doing a big project and you want to rotate your hand a lot to use the tip of it evenly. But I would say that that white is definitely more opaque than the Tombow white. So not a terrible option at this point. And then the third brush pen I have is the Pigment DecoBrush. This is also Karin brand. So this is basically paint in a brush marker. So we'll see how it turns up on here. This is, again, one that definitely kind of soaks into the cardstock because it's meant to be used as a paint pen on harder surfaces. So you can see it kind of comes out nice and dark and then it gets like sucked into the paper. It's not like a super consistent white across the board. So long story short, all three of those, not terrible on cardstock, but still not like a super vibrant white option. Okay, moving on to some more brush paint pens. This is the Pentel Milky brush. And this is like real bristles. So not my favorite thing to letter with, if you know me, but for the purposes of this video. We're just looking at the paint basically. So really similar to the Karin in that it kind of soaks into the paper. I'd say those two are pretty similar. The Pentel maybe soaks in a little bit faster. You can see it really starting to kind of fade now. Then let's try the Posca paint pen, which is like a huge paint pen tip. I'm gonna just write it here. So this one has really beautiful opaque white, but it's really hard to use this tip, to be honest. It's not great for control. And that is a really horrible example of lettering, but just to give you an idea of how dark that paint is compared to these. So I think if we leave this for a minute, we'll be able to see how much it soaks in compared to those ones. So I like the paint in the Posca, but I like the tip of the Karin. Can't win them all. Okay, and then lastly, let's test out these two Posca paint pens. I also have Sharpie paint pens over in my box over there, but I know that those don't work on cardstock. They just get soaked right in, so I'm just gonna skip that altogether. So if you're wondering about Sharpie, don't bother with those on paper. Let's look at the Poscas though. So these we do shake. So this is the size 3M bullet tip. And it's really nice and vibrant on the black cardstock right up front. We'll see if it fades in at all. But I think it's definitely one of the best options we've gone through so far. And then let's try the Posca Bullet Shape 1M. And this, my friends, is definitely the winner in my books. It is super vibrant. It's not choppy at all. And it's a really fine, nice tip that you can do like small lettering with. And then if I wanted to do calligraphy, let's just write the word dog for fun. I would use it for faux calligraphy. So just write the word and then come back and fill it in. So there's no magical solution where we have a beautiful white brush pen, a beautiful white paint pen, and a beautiful white gel pen. But in my opinion, this Posca paint pen is the most versatile of all of them. And there's something about the tip on this 1M that makes it a lot more opaque even on paper, whereas a lot of the other Posca brush pen sizes will kind of like, you can see a little bit, this bigger one is starting to sink into the paper more, but this small one doesn't. It's like really nice and vibrant. So there you have it. I left the best for last. I'm not gonna lie, I knew that this was the winner. I've tested all these pens before, but Posca size 1M bullet shaped, or if you want 0.7 millimeters, this is the winner. This is the one. And it works on glass, it works on paper, it works on all sorts of surfaces. So there you have it. That's the one. Okay, I hope this was helpful and saves you some money on white pens. As always, I would love it if you would hit subscribe for more content like this, because I put out a new video every single week, and I'll see you in the next one.